614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast, Columbus's #1 source of startup news and interviews. I am your host, Elio Harmon, back for another episode. Now, very special guest coming up, my man Mo Womack of HairDrop. I love this company. I'm biased with this company because I really love the idea. I feel like a real connection to this company. So I think you guys are going to get it from the interview that I really think that this company has legs. But before we get into that, you know our regular routine. We got to go to the news. This is some breaking news here on our social media page. I picked this up on LinkedIn, but a good friend of the show, Paul Ellinger, formerly of Alos Ventures, or Alos, I always get that wrong. He's VC. He's going to keep his position with 68 Capital, and another friend of the show, Kelly Jones, out of Indianapolis. But Paul is making the jump from VC to startup world with a major announcement from Gift Health. Now, I know this is probably a little bit small on your screen here, but we shared this from the Gift Health page. And they made this announcement, I believe 3 days ago, but we just caught wind of it, that Paul Ellinger joins their team as Director of Operations, making the jump from VC to startup world. Congratulations to Paul. Congratulations to the team over at Gift Health. It looks like they're putting together a team for a championship run. Looking forward to have Nick on the show. Maybe we'll do our first episode with 2 guests. All right, Ski, we got to make that happen, man. This is major, all right? I think this is a playoff team that Nick is putting together. We need to see what's coming up next for Gift Health. Now, where can you find news like this about the startup ecosystem in Columbus, Ohio? Well, you go to our social media, all right? And the place we are most active is on LinkedIn, where this story currently is. All right, so check us out on LinkedIn. If LinkedIn is not your platform of choice, hey, that's for old people, I guess. That's what the kids say. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching this video if you're not watching it on our website. Now, how are we able to do this show? Well, we have sponsors that help us out. And this show, as always, is being brought to you by our friends at Nationwide, all right? So support for the 614 Startups Podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in InsurTechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit www.nationwideventures.com to learn more. Nationwide is on your side, all right? Let's keep this thing moving. Hey, 614 Startups is getting into the events business as the reopening process moves forward. We're praying that there aren't any hiccups. We're venturing in first with virtual, de-risking, right? Let's start where we know we will actually be able to complete an event. And so we partnered with Bernstein. Bernstein is a sponsor of the show. We partnered with Bernstein, and we're doing an event for the first time for nonprofits. Now, why did I want to do an event for nonprofits? Well, because at 614 Startups, the philosophy here is in order to have a great city, you need well-run government, thriving businesses, and a robust nonprofit sector to fill in the gaps, right? There are always going to be gaps between what government can do and what business can do, and that's where healthy nonprofits live. And so the event that we're doing is Making an Impact in Columbus, Innovation Insights for the Nonprofit Community and the Founders Who Support Them. That event will be held on Tuesday, June 22nd from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. you can go to our website under our events page. You click the link to register. It's going to bring you right here. You could register. I hope to see you there. We have a very, very dynamic panel. I will be moderating. Claire Gola from Bernstein, Laura McDonald from the Benefactor Group, and Elizabeth Martinez, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Ohio. So very, very, very good lineup. A lot of information that I'm sure you'll find valuable. All right, now, how do you keep getting better? I know it's really tough with life, family, business, hobbies, friends, etc., to make time to really develop yourself, sharpen that steel, but we're making it easy, right? This book right here from my guy, Ryan Frederick, now available on the website for sale. All right, the Founder's Manual, a guidebook for becoming a successful entrepreneur. One of my favorite books, not just because we're selling it on the website. The reason we're selling it on the website is because I read it and it's helping me tremendously. It's very well written, simple to understand, but the insights are profound and practical. So if you read this and you practice, right, what you find in this book, you will start to reap the benefits. All right, now, if I have to, I will read segments of the book on this show just to make sure that you get the value if you are hesitant about buying the book. That's because the content here is so valuable, I believe, for this audience. So check out the book. It's on the website. If it's not for you, you can give it as a gift. All right. But this is a great way to support the podcast and to continue your education as an entrepreneur. All right, folks, that's a wrap for this segment of the show. Coming up next, Mo Womack of HairDrop. 614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. Man, we have a rarity on the show. This does not happen often because we want to give as many entrepreneurs a chance to come on this show. But we do have an alum, a previous guest on the show, back for a second time, my man, Mo Womack of HairDrop. Mo, welcome to the show.
What's up, Elio? Thanks for having me back, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I could count on one hand how many repeat guests we've had, but when we have someone who is making major moves, particularly a move like the move we're going to talk about today, I want to be the one that breaks the news. So I want to talk, for people who don't know your full backstory, they can go back to the episode that you had before on the show and start there. But we're starting with kind of 2021 Mo and this new company that you're working on, HairDrop. So why don't we start with the origin story of HairDrop and go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know me, man, I've always been a proponent of like, how do we use technology to improve lives, apply it to a problem, and produce a solution. And so kind of in that same vein, I was having a conversation with my brother. He had just graduated from barber school, you know, and so I was talking to him. It was like, hey, is there some problems that you guys see daily at the shop, or that maybe if we added some technology would kind of improve, you know, either save time or create some kind of, you know, money saving opportunity, or just make your life easier as a barber. And so we were talking, and then, you know, came up that like, hey, what if you could add an app where you could purchase supplies and have them delivered to you in like an hour? You know, was that something you think would solve a problem? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. You know, because during the day they got to stop either, you know, or go out to the beauty supply store somewhere to replenish their supplies for items that they maybe have unexpectedly run out of or forgot to stock up on. And you know, when you're out of the shop, you're not making money. And so from that standpoint, I, you know, thought about the problem and the solution, was like, yeah, I could put that together, you know. And so from there, you know, it kind of turned into a project, man, and turned into an actual product now that, you know, after about 6 months or so.
All right. Now, this is kind of an aside for the importance of the skill of coding, right? Because it's kind of like the 20th 21st century version of trade schools. We know trade schools have been sucked out of high schools. And for the most part, you really need to pursue a trade independent of the school system to acquire a skill that is highly marketable and able to put you squarely in the middle class. I don't want to gloss over the fact that you said you and your brother were talking about ideas, and you have a skill, right, that is so applicable to the world that we live in today, that you could immediately transfer that skill into a business. I know part of what you do is educate kids on coding, that skill. How critical in the 21st century is it to have that skill and the applications that it opens up for somebody who possesses it?
Yeah, no, it's very important. And so just kind of back up a little bit. I am a proponent of what I call no code. So if you're not familiar with it, it's really the ability or the skill set to build software without actually learning to code, right? So, like you said, I used to teach STEM in underrepresented areas, underserved communities. And one of the barriers was this idea that you had to take a long, 2 years to learn how to code to actually build something, right? So I met a lot of people, and still do to this day, who have ideas for businesses, technology businesses, but don't know how to go from idea to, at the very least, a prototype or an MVP, as we say, right? And so I'm a big proponent of no code, but, as a way to quickly get your idea into the market, get some validation, get some feedback, get some traction, whatever you need to potentially raise money, and then put it back and beef up, if you will, your MVP, and then turn that into a solid business. And so, but back to the whole coding piece, I do code. When I built HairDrop, actually, it was a mix of coding and no code tools and skill sets, and a conglomeration of those things to get it out so quickly. Like I was saying, it was about 6 months ago when my brother and I were having that conversation. But I built it in a few weeks, actually, a working prototype. So if you can think about how, if you use these skill sets, I think it was Naval from AngelList. He said, if you can build and you can sell, you're pretty much unstoppable, right? So I've never had any issues with the building piece. And, I'm really trying to gear up for the selling piece.
Yeah, and that's the message that needs to get out there. You don't just need to learn these skills to get a job. You could learn these skills to create jobs. All right. So that's my little
Absolutely.
plug on the education side. Now let's talk about black hair. When I heard the idea for HairDrop, for people who might be watching this show, and it's like, what? Beauty supplies? Yeah, I get it. Makeup, yeah, I can kind of understand that, particularly two guys talking about beauty. But let's talk about the barbershop where you and I live.
Yeah.
What is the importance of the barbershop, right? Both as a potential business opportunity, but also as a social gathering place where ideas are exchanged.
Oh, it's very important, especially if we're talking about the Black community, right? So typically, one of the first things, if you touch down in another city, you're gonna be there for a while. You figure out where's the best barber, and get that environment, not only to increase your networking capabilities, because you meet people, the movers and shakers, depending on where you go, but also to look good, So that's one of the things that, if you care about your appearance, you want to make sure you're at the barber regularly. And then also, where you can get that camaraderie, that socialization is a very important piece. And we're talking, and on the other side too, if we're talking about stylists and salons, right? So, we know that the Black hair care market is, a multi-billion-dollar industry. I just don't think there are a lot of technology companies that are out there trying to tackle the problem in different areas. And so I think that really creates a big opportunity.
And a lot of investors who understand, right, what an
Absolutely.
opportunity it is. And so that's part of this show, right? It's really looking at this opportunity from the perspective of the people who live in it. Now, as you were thinking about problems to solve for your barbers or your beauticians or your salon owners, why did you land on this, just-in-time delivery model of beauty supplies? What were they articulating to you that made you say, hey, there's an opportunity here?
Well, a couple things. I mean, if you look at the trend where people now are accustomed to getting things via their mobile phone and having it delivered, whether that's DoorDash, Instacart, GoPuff, or any of those services, and after talking to barbers and stylists, it was like, hey, this is really a lane that's ripe for disruption in terms of adding that component, right? That on demand, the convenience component. It falls under what I call like a ritualized activity, right? So if you look at what DoorDash does, they provide ready-made food for the ritual of eating, right, or dining. And then you have Instacart, which provides groceries for cooking and things of that nature. And so if you start to think about where we spend our time at during the day, one of the things that I saw that was missing that kind of fits into that model for me was when you wake up in the morning and you get ready, whether that's for work or to go out to school or anything like that. And even in the evening, you have these materials and supplies that you use during that ritual, right? And so I was like, hey, maybe this is really an area where you can build a brand. You can kind of really deeply understand what the consumer wants, who values their appearance, and figure out a way to really provide not only a better customer experience, right? So how do we kind of wrangle those consumers away from the status quo as far as like what they typically do now, and provide a better experience for them in the future using our app and our service. And so when we kind of thought through that, it made sense at least to put together something that was viable, that people could test and actually work through. And then, once we got, more feedback, it just made sense.
Yeah, man, it made sense to me, right? Because I've literally been there in the barber shop. You're sitting in the chair and your barber runs out of the little neck thing that goes around your collar to protect your collar, right? So you have to go over and borrow one from the other barber, or he runs out of the razor to get your edge up extra sharp.
Absolutely.
So you have to borrow one from the barber next to him. Where if the barber immediately realizes, oh, it's Saturday morning, I'm gonna be here for another 9-10 hours. I'm gonna run out of razors by about 11 o'clock. They could use your app, right? Still being there, still being present for their customers, and have these items delivered to them. Now, Mo, I'm so excited about this show. I actually forgot my first sponsor. Listen, hang on right there, because when we come back, we're gonna talk about minimum viable product and how you began to actually engage the barbering community to get users to come on board the platform. All right, this show is being brought to you by Book and Street. Book and Street provides finance and accounting solutions for startups in the Midwest and beyond. From strategic financial support to bookkeeping and everything in between, they've got your back office covered. Let their experienced team of finance and accounting professionals help your startup get it right from the start. Learn more about bookandstreet.com and set up your free 30-minute consultation with their team today. Big shout out to the folks over at Book and Street for supporting this show. All right, so you get the idea, you talk to barbers, you go out to build something. What does version 1.0 look like? And then how do you get it into the hands of the users? What was your strategy for getting first users to start testing this thing out?
Yeah, I mean, first you got to build it, so you start to think about like, what are the features, the minimum features that you need to really prove out this idea. I mean, we have a thesis, right? That, hey, people would be open to, pulling out an app, ordering their supplies and having it delivered, whether that's a barber, stylist, or your normal consumer. That's the thesis, right? And then you have to actually go out and test it. You could do some market research on the front end if you wanted to. We did some anecdotal things on the front and having conversations with barbers and stylists. And, one of the things that we saw was that, you would get the typical, hey man, I had an idea like this several years ago. I couldn't build it, right? I didn't know the technology piece, and so it kind of sat on the shelf. So I got that from quite a few people who were like, yeah, this is a needed service, but they just couldn't make it happen, right? And so, for us, that was all I needed to hear, so you put together the minimum feature set, you got to have product catalog essentially, right? A way to search and categorize, and then ultimately got to have a way to deliver it, right? So for people to order through the app, and where's the app available? So, we were able to publish the app on iOS and Google Play Store. So, it's live now. We actually did a soft launch a few weeks ago. So as we kind of work out the kinks, get feedback, we're going to gear up for a hard launch. But it's working now. You can order it and have your items in less than an hour if you so choose. And so give it a try if you haven't. So
Yeah. So did you go narrow but deep in terms of a certain product set in your category? So did you go for the barber side, clippers, combs, or how did you determine, right? Because that's another thing, right? People ordering what they need, and you don't want to download every possible product category. How did you go about narrowing down what you were going to offer in the soft launch in terms of things that barbers ordered regularly, or
yeah, so
beauticians, etc., and
yeah,
which brands? And how did
absolutely.
you go through that whole process of
I
discovery
mean,
for what was going to go in the catalog?
you talk to barbers and stylists, right? Like, what do you typically, you talk to a group of them, and, what do you typically run out of during your workday? Whether that's, again, neck strips, razors, typically the consumable items, but also, conditioner, things of that nature as well, hair products and so on and so forth. And then you start to put together a list. It's funny, when we first started, we were like, hey, let's just focus on the top 100 things that maybe people can agree on that they would typically run out of. But we were fortunate enough that, we actually have about 700 or 800 different items that you on the app available that you could order. So.
All right, so let's get into the secret sauce. You could tell me, hey man, why are you all in my business right now? Why are you trying to figure out how this thing works? I'm
Yeah.
curious. How does a guy with a startup, unless you have this secret rich uncle that's footing the bill, get access to over 800 products to be able to deliver them just in time? What does the delivery driver network look like? Are we piggybacking on another network? It's time for the secret sauce, Mr. Mo. How did you get, let's start with the product, right? How do you get to 800 products that you can deliver just in time?
Well, there's a couple paths. So originally, when we were thinking this through, it was like, okay, we got to raise enough money to actually lease a warehouse, right? Because one of the things we wanted to do from the beginning was not just simply be a delivery service, but actually, have our own product that we could sell, take advantage of the margins that are inherent in the beauty products themselves, right? So we're thinking it through. It's like, okay, I guess we gotta buy these items, which depending, maybe we can just buy enough to where, if the lead times on reordering were not too long, we can buy enough that if they sold through, we can reorder quickly and have them back in stock, so on and so forth. And so, there was this idea of, okay, we got to raise some money, lease a location. But then thinking it through a little bit more, again, just trying to figure out, given the resources we have, what do you do, right? So actually, man, I took a sales sheet and made up a proposal, and I went around to several beauty supply stores in the Columbus area, right? Door to door with my sales sheet,
Pounding
saying,
the
hey,
pavement.
this
I like it.
on the pavement, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm building this. You got unused product on your shelf, right? Give it to me to sell through the app. And when it comes, and when people buy it, I'll pay you out. You give me a cut of that, and then as we build it, that's enough for us to get a proof of concept built and going and working. And so, and then as we grow it, again, our goal is to own our own product warehouse as well, and have our own delivery drivers as well, which we don't have now, but we do have a partnership. Again, partnership being very important here with a major on-demand delivery service.
Listen, when they make the movie, all right, of you pounding the pavement, beauty store to beauty store, that's the grind montage right there. I'm getting
Hey,
the
it's what's
mental image of
required.
the
It's what's
grind
required. Yeah.
montage of you going beauty store to beauty store to try to get these agreements in place. All right, so now you have all of these products, you have these agreements, they're in place. Now we got to talk about delivery. How did you guys solve the problem of delivery?
So we actually, so again, going back to thinking about how we make this happen, there was some thought about like, well, hey, if we start out slowly, we could deliver them, or we could maybe pay somebody to batch delivery, just depending on, how quickly orders came in. And, but we were, again, able to secure a partnership with a major on-demand delivery service, really national, an international company. So as a startup, so it was, and that really what was the final piece for us that allowed us to put everything together so that, somebody can order in the app, have it delivered in less than an hour.
So you had to get, I mean, are you just getting yeses across the board? Because like, is everybody understanding this opportunity? Are the people that you're talking about understanding? I know you're going to start again. You have to narrow your market. You have to focus on a certain segment, but it's majority, kind of your first target market is Black barbers and beauty salons. I
Mm-hmm.
know the business is bigger than that. All right. I'm not asking you this question to pigeonhole you to say, oh, this is exclusively what HairDrop is going to do. But I'm emphasizing this because the concept needs to be so simple that the people who stand to benefit from it, when you explain it to them, they want to do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This idea that you would go to beauty salons and despite you're helping them think about this whole idea of e-commerce. I mean, maybe they were never impacted by the pandemic, right? Because people are going to do their hair regardless, even if they got to be in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they
Absolutely.
didn't feel it, the pinch like some other businesses during the pandemic. But was it that the idea, that the market, that the opportunity was so clear that when you presented it, people said yes? Or what was the yes-no ratio, even with finding a partner like the delivery network? What were you running into? Is the idea an idea whose time has come and you're just finding validation with each subsequent conversation? What was it like?
Um, Really, on the beauty side, it was hit or miss. You just like with anything, man. And at that point, I really just needed one partner who had the products and services that I needed to upload to the app and get out there, right? So, and I was able to get that and a little bit more. So, once I had that, again, just being able to find a delivery partner, it's just working the streets, man. You get to know, you figure out. Like I said, our original thought was to have our own location, buy our own products. And then kind of once we kind of ran into some obstacles there, it was like, all right, back up. How can we approach the problem from a different angle, right? So maybe, especially being so early in our growth, really our goal is to prove out the concept, right? So I think a lot of times entrepreneurs get caught up into the grand vision of what they want to build, and then they're working on the grand vision as opposed to what is again, back to this minimum viable product that we can build that proves out our thesis, get some traction, and then we're able to raise some money to put it in to build toward the broader vision. And so, being disciplined about, because again, there's always people who want to throw in their 2 cents, like, hey, you need to focus on this or doing that. But making the decision to actually focus on proving out the concept first, so that once we're able to do that, we can kind of grow it, raise funds to really accelerate that growth, really lock down the Columbus market, and then go to other areas as well.
All right, man. Listen, we got to give another shout out to a sponsor, and this time is about protecting yourself. Mr. Mo, I need you to think about this because when I come back, we're going to talk about building a moat. All right. Mr. Mo needs to build a moat. All right. So support for the 614 startups comes from the law firm of Dickinson Wright, with around 500 attorneys working from 19 offices across the US and Canada. They handle all types of business transactional law, including advising privately held and venture capital-backed companies in capital raising, mergers and acquisitions, and transactions involving technology, software, data, and e-commerce. Partner Alex Brown, my guy Alex Brown, serves as outside general counsel to startup companies, ranging from business entity selection and formation, protection and commercialization of technology assets, conducting business online, and data security issues. Very important, data security. For more information, visit dickinsonwright.com. All right, big shout out to Alex Brown. Thank you guys for your support. So Dickinson Wright is always about protecting their clients. Mr. Mo, you have to be about protecting your business. So you got to build yourself a moat. So if you have your supplier on one end and your delivery company on one end, I know you set out not to be just one or the other, right? Didn't want to just be a delivery company, didn't want to just be a beauty supply company. But on both ends, people are watching the success of HairDrop. It's kind of like, the classic case of Uber. They want to get into prescription delivery. They want to get into all kinds of deliveries. How are you building a moat for HairDrop right now that's going to protect your business and the unique market that you're building for yourself?
Absolutely. So one of the things when we set out to kind of solve these problems, one of the things that we wanted to actually pay particular attention to was the community, right? So, by itself, the Black community, the Black hair care industry, again, is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? So when thinking about who we wanted to serve, not only through the app, but just who we had love for, if you will, excuse me, who we had love for as far as, the people we wanted to serve, the community was always at the core of that, right? So, excuse me. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're partnering with community organizations, right? So again, they're our customers, but we also want to support the good work that they're doing within the community. So at the same time as we're building the business, we're also connecting to the community in a way that's genuine and authentic. And hopefully that's repaid via, them using our app, for products that they would buy anyway, and creating a symbiotic relationship between the community and the customers and HairDrop, right? Also, if we're able to kind of gain some speed and momentum here, I think there's an opportunity to build a big brand, that's focused specifically on hair care and beauty, not only in the Black community, but in a broader sense as well. And if we're fast enough to that finish line, I think, and if we kind of make the right moves along the way, I think there's an opportunity to create a brand that is recognized as, more than just a delivery service or beauty care, a supply store, but a brand, that's connected to the community, the barber community, the stylist community, the Black community, and everywhere in between. So
I got it. I mean, community is hard to build. Community is hard to sustain, and authentic community is, it takes time. And, a lot of big brands, may not necessarily want to spend the time or move out of their core strategy when it comes to building in a very niche area. So that's kind of part of the moat, right? Focusing on this narrow niche initially. But I think what's interesting is your brand strategy, which includes very early on engaging brand ambassadors. Why is the ambassador strategy important, like you said, around community? Because my guy, Veteran Cuts, Sean, is one of your ambassadors. I think
Absolutely.
You have a female ambassador as well. Why was that important to you? Again, being authentic, you're not just saying these things, you're doing it in practice right now around building community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you know anything, again, like we were talking earlier about the barbering community or the stylist, there's a whole culture there, right? So, as we were thinking about how do we connect with stylists and barbers in particular, we knew we needed people who are actually in the culture, right? Who could direct us and give us authentic advice as we start to engage with that community, right? And so, when we were looking around, Sean was from the barbering side. He was one of the people who really took his craft seriously. He had connections. He had an eye for branding and marketing, and it just made sense for us to reach out to him. And he was all for it. Again, another person who had thought of something similar in the past, but just hadn't gotten around to it. And so, and we also have Christina Crump, who is our chief stylist. So a stylist with over a salon owner, actually, with over 20 years styling experience, deep roots in the salon community. And so we wanted to bring those people on board and have them advise us so that, as we grow, again, that relationship is authentic, is true to what the culture is. And so, creating a symbiotic relationship there that, like I said, that's authentic. That's really rooted in community.
All right. So as you build this community, as you get ready for launch, what are some things that you're thinking about? What are some milestones? What are some things over the next couple of months you're looking to accomplish, if you're willing to share those things here? Yeah. And what are some of the resources you think you're going to need in order to be actually be able to hit those milestones or goals that you've set for yourself?
Yeah, so, I'm learning a lot as I go on this journey. Like, how do you get people to download your app, right? If you got an app in the App Store, people don't just stumble upon it, so you got to figure out the marketing behind, how do you get people to download your app? That's one thing. And then once they have your app, how do you get them to buy, right? And so we're just kind of, at the beginning stages of trying to figure that whole customer journey from discovery all the way through purchase and then repurchase potentially, right? So a lot of our marketing efforts, again, have been like, how do we get into the community, let them know that we're here operating and that we're here for them. And then also figuring out our digital ad strategy as we grow, and again, the one side of that marketing strategy is the ambassador influencer strategy. And then the other side, of course, is the more paid advertising, things of that nature. So we're just trying to figure out what's effective, what works, and then hopefully pour a little bit more money into those areas where it's really, really making sense for us, and then grow from there, get the feedback, learn, and then double down on those things and strategies that are working.
Man, listen, I love to hear it. This is one of those companies, like when you shared the idea with me, I got super excited about. I just understand it. I understand it viscerally. I've experienced it in real life, and I understand that you have some issues to solve around, kind of like downloading the app and user engagement, and how do you get people to return to the app, not just for emergency needs, but actually planned needs as well. So all of these things that you need to work on, I'm sure you're going to figure out. I mean, you're a guy who, when you put your mind to something, you're going to get it done. I've seen you do it time and time again. But I want to give you a shout out, man, because we're about to wrap this thing up. But you know how you start something and you have those day one people. Mo Womack is a day one, no new friends kind of guy. All right. And the way I know that is not just, I listen to the podcast. He listens to the podcast and he could talk to me about the podcast episodes, right? It's not like he sees it on LinkedIn. He just kind of scrolls over it. He's a real listener. Number two, he puts his money where his mouth is. Early on, when we started pushing out episodes on Anchor, we asked listeners, and we don't really push this. So this is kind of another sign of like the insider club that we have here at 614 Startups. Mo is actually an Anchor supporter, right? So every month he supports the show, and it goes a long way to producing this content. And then finally, he drops the big bag on us as the first startup sponsor of the 614 Startups podcast. And we cannot close until we give the HairDrop sponsor shout out, all right? This show is being brought to you by the folks at HairDrop. Never visit the beauty supply store again. Order your beauty products from the HairDrop app and have them delivered in an hour or less. Right now, on your phone, go to Apple, Google Play, look at HairDrop, download that right now, all right? HairDrop is like DoorDash for beauty products. Get your hair care, grooming tools, hair extensions, and more when you need them to ensure you look and feel your best at all times. Available for download from both the Apple and Google Play stores. Get a beauty store in your pocket by visiting www.hairdrop.app and have your beauty delivered today. Mr. Mo, thank you for coming back on the show, man.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said, I have been a day one, man, because I just see the work you've been doing, the grind that you put in, and I appreciate that. And I've always been somebody who supported the good work, whatever that may be, and you've been doing that from day one, man. So I appreciate you. Much continued success, and however I can help and assist you to grow your platform, man, I'm always here. So.
Much appreciated. We got a big announcement coming, man. Listen, tell the people who are holding up that announcement, let's get it going, all right? Because we need to tell the people what's happening, all right?
You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Stay locked in, man. Let me do my show wrap, and we'll get out of these people's hair. That's a wrap, folks. You can find this in all our episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review on all of those platforms. It really helps the show. If you would like updates sent to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. Make sure you do that as well. To engage in the 614 Startups community, you know we're mad prolific on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also YouTube now where these videos live, at 614 Startups on all platforms, at 614 Startups. We keep it simple. All right, for sponsorship opportunities and collaborations, email me, man, info@614startups.com. Until next time, peace.